Hey everybody, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with D&D Doge. In today's episode, we have a tale about a player that makes a character for the sole purpose of revenge on another player, and a story about a Dungeons & Dragons campaign that was designed just to spite a player's old character. But before we get into those, I think we're going to need a blessing from Simba to help get us through these stories. There we go. Now I think we are ready to jump right in. A player seeks revenge after the wizard kills their character. By Reddit user Disastrous Sapphire. I'm playing a very shy, skittish tiefling wizard, and the problem player, that I'll just call Mike, was originally playing a dwarven fighter. We had ended up in a battle against my character's former mentor. He was an evil wizard who only took her under his wing as a means to have a servant. She had learned magic through sneaking peeks into his spellbooks, and one night she had been caught. He had meant to lock her away, leaving her to starve, in hopes that the secrets she had learned would go with her to the grave. Though, luckily for her, she had been planning her escape for weeks now, and had managed to get her hands on a scroll for Dimension Door without his knowledge. Fast forward several years into the future, in-game, and the party had learned that he was aiding the BBEG of the campaign, so they stormed into his hideout to question him and stop their evil plans. During the fight, since my character is a support, I was instantly targeted by the crafty wizard. Usually, in fights, I support the marshals. Because of this, Mike and I had a good relationship, because I could cast haste on him, making him even more of a powerhouse. Though her former mentor used Dominate Person on her, and I failed the wisdom save. He started using me to buff himself, and forced me to attack my party. Due to most of them being melee or tanks, none of them really wanted to attack me, so they kept trying to restrain me instead. However, by some curse bestowed upon me by the dice gods, I rolled high, and they rolled low in their attempts to grapple me. Eventually, Mike and the Barbarian whittled down the wizard's HP, so he decided on a Hail Mary. If he was going to die, we were all going to die with him. So he commanded my little wizard to use a spell in her arsenal that she had only ever used once before. Fireball. I not only casted it at the highest level, level 6, but Mike and the Barbarian failed their saves. The Barbarian only lived thanks to his resistances. But Mike? His character died along with the wizard, so the DM had asked Mike to start making death saving throws. But Mike had different plans. Mike:
Can I just willingly fail?
The DM:
Yeah, sure.
Are you wanting to play a new character or something? Mike:
No, I just don't think my character could work with OP after she attacked everyone like that.
DM:
What?
Oh, no, that wasn't a portrayal. The wizard cast Dominate Person on her.
Mike: Yeah, I know that, but my character doesn't know that.
I felt bad at this point, as I had never killed a fellow player character before, and Mike had a good friendship with my little wizard, and I tried to express this by having my wizard drop to her knees and sob upon realizing what she had done. And we held a funeral for the fallen fighter before continuing on our task of searching for the wizard's hideout. Though the entire time, Mike hadn't said a word. The following session rolls around about 2 weeks later, and Mike had brought in a new character, a human paladin who instantly took a dislike to my character. He would call her names such as Devil Scum or a Heartless Demon, and warned the party that I was not to be trusted. I didn't think anything of it at first. I just thought that he was playing the holier-than-thou paladin stereotype, and that eventually, after seeing my character was not a threat, would warm up to her. And in the meantime, this will create an interesting dynamic, as the two will have a one-sided rivalry, while my wizard tries to prove that he's misjudging her. We made it to the next town that session, as our DM likes to have a rest and relaxation session between huge encounters to give us time to digest what we've learned and stock back up on supplies. Though Mike goes off on his own instead of staying with the group and tells us that his character wouldn't go off with us just yet since he doesn't really know us. Fair enough. But now that I think of it, he never really gave his character a reason to go with us. He never said what his goals were, or that he would even accompany us on our journey. He just followed along, and I think I overlooked this since he was a returning player, just with a new character. Little did I know, his paladin had his own secret motivation for tagging along with our group. It started at the tavern. Once night rolled around, we paid for our rooms and drank before heading to bed. The barbarian was making some jokes about the music being awful at this bar, and was making a bet with a very famous bard that he could play the lute better with one hand. We all laughed as he rolled performance with disadvantage and got a nat 1, so the DM described that not only could he barely hold on to the lute, but the strings that he tried to strum sounded so terrible that everyone in a 10-foot range had started covering their ears. It was at this point that Mike tells the DM to check his messages. The DM did, and, sounding concerned, gave Mike the typical, "Are you sure?" I was then asked to make a perception check, though wisdom is one of my dump stats, so I easily fail the check. The DM tells me that I don't notice anything, and the night continues, and I eventually describe getting a refill on my drink. Mike, gleefully,
Did you drink all of it?
Me, yeah, I did. Mike,
DM, she has to make a con save.
Me, laughing, oh, to see if I'm drunk? This should be good. DM, no, not for that. I'm confused, but I roll, and get an 18. The DM tells me that I start feeling very nauseous, like I need to lie down. Mike is very quiet at this point, not saying anything as I describe my character hurrying to her room to turn in for the night. After a couple of minutes, when everyone's characters start doing the same, Mike says that he wants to take off his armor once he gets to his room. I thought that he was just adding a bit of flavor to the roleplay, describing how his paladin removes his armor before he sleeps. But that is not what this was. Not at all. He had his character sneak down the hallway to my room and open my bedroom door. I don't see the obvious red flags and tell the DM that since my character was drinking and had gotten sick, then she probably would be fast asleep. The DM then asks me if I'm sure, and I instantly get a bad feeling, but I stick to what I said to avoid metagaming. The next thing I know, Mike is rolling a grapple to grab my character and cover her mouth. And this is when it starts going down. Unlike before when we faced the wizard, I'm repeatedly failing my rolls to get myself out of the grapple. And because my mouth is covered, there are several spells that I can't cast, since most of them that I have that would get me out of this situation are verbal. Mike then brags about how there's no way I'll be able to break free since he took the grappler feat, and then describes how he's using one arm tucked around my character's neck, holding her in a chokehold, while using his bicep to cover her mouth. In his other hand, he had a sword, and you guessed it, is casting smite on it as he proceeds to stab into my little wizard. She's dying. He's murdering her right under the party's nose, and none of the other players can do anything because they don't know this is happening. I look through my spells, trying to figure out what to do, when I realize that Thunderclap is only a somatic spell and will create enough noise to draw attention to my room. So I cast it, awakening everyone in the tavern. The party members rush to my room, and Barbarian manages to wrestle me away from the paladin, who begins screaming at him, asking him what he thinks he's doing. Mike claims that this is what his character would do, as he wouldn't see my wizard as a person, just a monster to dispose of. The party goes back and forth in character for a bit, while the bard helps patch up my little wizard. Mike's paladin then turns to her, vowing that he will rid the world of my kind, before stomping back to his room. Barbarian volunteers to sleep in my room with me for protection, and as the session continues after the group's long rest, Mike keeps making comments about how his paladin isn't going to stop trying to kill my wizard, and how she merely got lucky. He also reveals that the reason my wizard had gotten sick before was because he had snuck a poison into her drink that I luckily had passed the DC of. Mike was actually mad about this, The DM had lowered the DC for me since he was trying to poison a fellow party member. As the night continues, most of the party has left the voice chat, including the DM. We're alone now, so I eventually tell Mike that I'm a little sad that he made a character that would be so hostile towards mine. But he throws his fighter's death back into my face, saying that he's not doing anything that I already didn't do. I remind him that I was not in control of my wizard at that point, and that I would never willingly try to kill him. But his response is just that his character wouldn't know that, so his dwarf died thinking that my character betrayed the party. I ask him if that's why he made this paladin, to kill my wizard, and he responded that he purposely made a character that he knew my wizard wouldn't like, but whether she died or not would depend on how I play. I just awkwardly tell him okay before getting off the call. I'm not sure if I should tell the DM about Mike's plans or intentions with his paladin. Mike and I usually play well together, so it's shocking that he's being so hostile in this instance. I've tried messaging him a couple of times to try and tell him that I'm not okay with this behavior, and that I don't want my character to die for metagaming reasons. If she does die, I want it to be natural, not because he purposely invented a character that will hate her, though he denies that it's metagaming and just tells me to play smarter. So I told him that my wizard would be very wary around him now, and want to avoid him as much as possible. His response? Mike, good. Me, you really don't care. Mike, no, my character really wouldn't care about what a devil spawn thinks of him. Me, don't you at least care how I feel about it? Mike, your character was the one who started this. How can she be okay with killing but not being killed herself? Seems kind of hypocritical. Me, she's not okay with killing. She didn't have a choice. I just really don't want her to die over something like this. Mike, it's just a character. Characters die all the time. You should know since you killed mine. It's like he magically forgets that my character was being controlled, and refuses to acknowledge my emotions can extend to outside of the game when it comes to him purposely trying to kill my wizard. He keeps throwing the "it's just a character" line out there, while also simultaneously being upset about his fighter's death, although he denies being upset about it. Update. A lot of people are putting the blame on my DM. My DM also seemed uncomfortable about the situation, and I don't think he fully knew what Mike's backstory was with his character. He had some shocked reactions at some of the things that he was adding, such as his hatefulness towards tieflings, and at one point during the session, before the attempt at murdering my wizard, the DM had said to Mike that they might need to go over some things about his character in private. So, when it comes to Mike's character, I don't think he let the DM in on his plans. And with the evil wizard controlling my character, that was something that I had written that he had done to her often in her backstory if she tried to disobey him. The DM should have handled the situation better, but I think he might have been in shock. I don't know how long he's been running D&D games, or if he's ever encountered a situation like this before, so I don't want to fully lay the blame on him over something that's happened in one session, and that I haven't spoken to him about yet. Holy crap, talk about holding a grudge. Like OP said, it's not like she was trying to kill off Mike's character. She was under control person. Besides that, if Mike was so attached to the character, why would he decide to purposely fail the death saves? I mean, his excuse of that it would be metagaming doesn't make any sense. Could the character be a bit spiteful that OP's character attacked them? Sure, and that would make for some good roleplay. But to have the character just die because, "Oh, my friend attacked me, I guess I'll just die then," is kinda stupid. But let's say for a moment that that is metagaming. Wouldn't then making a character that never met OP's and have their sole purpose be killing OP's character to avenge another character that they'd never met or had any point of reference of be metagaming? Not to mention the hypocrisy of stating that OP shouldn't be upset because player characters die all the time, all the while doing what he did. Now, I do realize that OP stated that the DM isn't to blame here, but I would have to disagree a little bit. The moment it became clear what Mike was doing, I think the DM should have paused the game, pulled Mike aside, and ask him what the hell he's doing. Then I would explain that he's supposed to make a character that will have a reason to go with the party, and if the character kills one of the party for seemingly no reason, there would be no reason for the party to have him join, and in all likelihood, the party would, in turn, kill that character. I understand that as a DM, you need to allow your players to have character agency, but at a point, you have to put your foot down when it's obvious that a player is just being petty and adversarial. Though, what to do at this point? Well, OP already tried to talk to Mike out of game, but it seems like there's no reconciliation on that front. So the next thing that I would say needs to happen is the DM talking to Mike and trying to come to some sort of understanding. Hopefully, Mike would realize that he's being a complete goober and figure out how to separate himself from his character while not holding grudges against players for something that was completely out of their control. Otherwise, the only solutions here would be to either kick Mike if he doesn't stop, or just leave the game yourself, as staying in the game with that constant target on your back wouldn't be any fun, and would just make the game more stressful than anything. Though, what are your thoughts on this one? Let's move on. New DM made my character from the previous campaign into a washed up loser, and hers into a legendary hero. By Reddit user Imaginary Giraffe 13. I have been part of a 4-year-long campaign, which I really enjoyed. There were 3 other players at the table, and the DM, who was really amazing. My character was a fighter who had become addicted to a drug, which had rage-like effects, with a few other buffs. But he started to lose his mind. Towards the end of the game, the entire arc of my character had been to conquer his addiction and give up on the drug. So after the final session, I had said that he would go to be treated for the addiction before marrying one of the NPCs. The DM wanted the new campaign to be in a completely different world, and one of the players, Helen, offered to DM a short game set 20 years in the future of the previous one. In her short game, she decided that instead of getting treated, my character had started taking the drug again, and he tried to rape the NPC he was supposed to marry. Then, her character had kicked his butt, and instead, had now married the said NPC. Not only that, my character now lived in the slums, and was feral, while hers was one of the legendary heroes. And somehow the rest of the party had been completely indifferent of how my character ended up. I was pissed, as I had been playing that character for 4 years, and it wasn't only me. The others were surprised as well, and even said that she was writing a fanfiction. She got pissed off and started saying how no one minded when the other DM told the story how he wanted. I was too annoyed, so I left the call, and apparently the others also left the call after arguing with her further. She had always tried to be controlling of the others' characters ever since she had joined, but no one besides me had a problem with it before this. I can totally understand why OP would be a bit bothered by another player totally writing out a horrible future for their character. Not only is it disrespectful to OP, seeing how they played the character for 4 years, but what if the group decides to do another campaign set in that world down the line? It kinda reminds me of what Rian Johnson and Disney did to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. I mean, you could see how bothered Mark Hamill was during interviews while promoting that joke of a movie. Seriously, that sequel trilogy was so mishandled. But I digress. At least it sounds like the rest of the group had OP's back here. I wonder what Helen's problem was. Though, maybe she was just trying to subvert expectations. But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.